Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. The campaign is Horror on the Orient Express. It is available from Chaosium. I am the Keeper of the Secrets, and this is episode 11. A recap will be given by Keith Craig as his character, Gunter Block. So, without any further delays, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Keith?
Thank you. Dorian, can we hold off on reading the journal? I need to refill my coffee and write a couple of my thoughts down. From the Journal of Gunter Block. What a time to be alive. I'm currently riding the Orient Express en route from Paris to Lausanne. I firmly believe that almost everything can be explained by science, even if we haven't discovered the secret yet. However, am confounded by my recent experiences. Maybe some fume or the rhythmic swaying and the motion of the train is causing the six of us to have a shared dream. But what fumes could cause this? I've never heard of anything documented in this. In our shared dream, we came to a strange port city of Diathalion. Besides the strangeness of it being a dream city and some strange creatures moving about, it is much like any other port city that I've been to in the waking world, I guess I'll refer to it. You know, bars, ruffians, people having a good time. The city guards were armed with swords and had tabards with eyes on them, but they seemed to be quite nonchalant, mostly looking at people and then ignoring petty crimes. After stopping by a bar and having some rather potent liquor with our Russian friend we had met on the train of the Dreamlands, we decided to explore the city a bit more and went up a hill away from the wharf. It seems that a lot of people, we'll call them, lived in the city. While we were climbing up there, Dr. Edison noticed that someone was wearing a cape and standing on top of a roof. We half expected him to take off and fly. However, he just continued to stand there. As we walked back, he was still there, cape blowing in the wind. We all remembered this in the morning. How could we have this shared dream? Anyway, in the dream, we're back at the train. We met some arrogant bipedal creatures. I hesitate to call them human, although they had arms and legs, but something about them was off. It almost took you to the uncanny valley looking at them. They were rather, they gave me the impression of when I was in school and people would make fun of me behind my back. This was reinforced when we went to the dining lodge and they wanted to talk to Dr. Edison, but made it very clear they did not want to speak with me. We did meet a much friendlier creature. Again, human shape, but with a purple skin and yellow eyes. His name was Mirahan Mir. Obviously, it would take some practice to be able to pronounce his name correctly. Oddest of all, there were some green creatures that were only wearing a loincloth. They came to ride the train. The smell. It smelled like they hadn't been washed in ages. They came up to Henry and produced a screeching golden frog. So strange. Henry explained that this is how they communicate. I couldn't understand anything they said. As we were getting ready to leave, we saw a woman throw herself off of a cliff, and then the train reached out with a tentacle and caught her and brought her onto the Orient Express, onto the Dreamlands train. She was an entertainer who says she's riding the Orient Express also. I wonder if at the same time we are. Apparently she was fleeing some scoundrel that was trying to force himself on her. But then Dr. Edison tripped, and next thing I knew, I was laying in bed, and the dream was fading away. However, I was the most rested I'd ever been. We met in the dining car for our coffee, and that's when we began piecing together that we had all shared this dream. Dorian suggested that we start reading from Smythe's journal, as we had several hours before we got to Lausanne, and told a very strange story from 1893, a story of a Fez of some kind. It seems that Dr. Smythe had a group of associates back then that were brought into his investigation and were appointed to ride the Orient Express also. I guess Mark Twain was right. History doesn't repeat itself. It only rhymes. Smythe's colleague Demir was researching a fez of some strange power, and he let it be known that one of his students, a Matthew Pook, had decided to steal the fez from a man named Lottie. Apparently, he was successful at stealing this fez, but something awful happened. That's when the associates were brought in. They were notified by Smythe to meet them in Whitechapel, that accursed district that was haunted by Jack the Ripper, and to bring weapons. When they got to the apartment, there was an old man laying on the bed, but wearing a fez, a bright red fez on his head. And the smells were awful, like feces and vomit. When they asked who it was explained that this was Matthew Pook, a young man, but they had somehow aged. When they tried to remove Pook from the residence to get him to a hospital, he died, and then the lights went out. Pook transformed into some strange creature with a large tongue that almost looked like a tassel, as it was described by Smythe. He killed the doctor, but was struck down by the associates of Dr. Smythe. Smythe then asked his associates to head out, as he was going to deal with the police. He asked the associates that they're going to need to take the fez to Constantinople to try and destroy it, because in London that it is indestructible. I knew Smythe had some wild ideas about the supernatural, but I always explained to him that everything would be eventually explained once we discovered more science. Now I'm wondering if maybe there are some things that cannot be explained through the scientific method. What horrors await me in Lausanne? Do I dare keep reading this journal with my associates? And if I do, was last night my last night of pleasant sleep?
Excellent. So back in 1893, after receiving the telegram that you got back from Demir, saying how dangerous the thing was, it's currently Monday morning, and you have until Wednesday morning to catch the Orient Express. What would you like to do? And I'll kind of remind you too that in this case, Smythe is a source of information as well. He can help you research and find stuff.
Right. He had a nice library at his house in the 18.
He did.
Might have some.
Plus, you've got the British Museum library.
Yeah.
And Smythe's library will probably be much more esoteric than the British Museum.
Also technically got the Oriental Club's library too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And currently the fez we have wrapped and in a container.
You have it in a hat box.
Delivered to a hat box, and the instructions we were given suggest to me that it should remain inert if it's not worn, but I wouldn't mind putting it in something sturdier.
I agree.
It seems to have some capacity to move of its own volition, and it's obviously extremely dangerous.
Well, I want very little to do with the damned thing. As long as it stays away from my person, I don't care what the hell you do with it. Put it in a
Professor,
box bag.
you have iron box to put hat in, yes?
Talking to Smythe?
Oh, I don't have anything like that, but it's certainly something that we can procure.
Yes, something, perhaps a tool chest or something of the sort with steel sides should be reasonably easily attained.
Something that doesn't look like a hat box.
Right, also, yes, especially colorful and decorative as that appears to be, it seems inappropriate.
I suspect that those responsible were waiting around for the police to leave so that they could retrieve the hat, but we have it instead. So we have an advantage.
Tell us, we didn't really get to ask a lot. How did you happen to learn even of this Fez?
Well, I mean, to put things into perspective, Professor Demir told me that Lottie was coming from Constantinople to London and that he had this strange artifact. He told me that in that first telegram. And then he told me that his student, Pook, Matthew, was observing the situation from a distance. And then he disappeared. And then I wasn't called until Matthew called out my name.
I guess, yeah. I guess I worded that wrong. How did Lottie discover
that? We don't know. He's probably a wannabe cult leader of some sort. There's a lot of them out there. But you make an interesting suggestion. Matthew Pook might have known quite a bit more. I think I've got his address where he was staying.
Yes.
We could maybe find a journal of his or something that he'd taken notes of his own. That might be very
We
nice.
should be very careful. I mean, if the men who did that to him found him, they may be watching his house. His apartment.
Most likely.
Well, if they knew where he lived, I suspect they caught him when he was trying to pilfer the hat.
He was perhaps foolish enough to escape with it by wearing it, which was his own damnation.
I don't know that he would have been so foolish, but perhaps. I'm looking for the address now.
Oh, no problem.
We do enjoy jotting those down.
And besides, we have Dimitri here. He's a large gentleman that would be able to scare off some potential troublemakers.
Here it is. It's a Lambeth address, and he gives you the number. It was a fairly modest flat in a house where there's other students.
Okay.
Makes sense. So there's that matter to follow up.
Also, there may be quite a bit of information. We can check our library here. If it has any actual connection to Fez, then it's probably got some Turkish or Persian, or that's probably in the background of it. Where did it come from? How long has it been around?
Yeah, I want to check for history of Fez. Maybe its origins.
Also, if this villain, we'll call him that, has been up to things here in London, maybe there's something in the news. He seems rather do I want to say
notorious?
He seems very haughty. Pook doesn't describe him being stealthy in any manner.
As to the symbolism present on the thing itself,
it's supernatural of some sort. The lettering changes. I don't recognize any kind of what the hieroglyphics are that are moving. I don't want to look at it. It bothers you. It's very difficult to look at.
actually painted before our very eyes.
I also think that it makes noises.
It made me feel nauseous when it just
When
came
you touched
near.
it.
Yeah, brushed up.
It is
against-
truly a thing of evil.
awful.
I think our best course of finding something really pertinent to it would be first to find Matt's, go there and look for any sort of research he had done on it, because that would be directly related to the item, as opposed to blindly searching for it in the museum.
Yeah.
Also,
I suggest we split and follow many threads all at once. I will begin with history here in Professor, your most excellent personal library, and then to Oriental Club if need be.
I was thinking of going to Pook's residence. If anyone would care to join me, I think we should at least travel in pairs.
I quite agree.
that's
Yes.
probably wise. Yes.
I will stay with Dimitri. My historical knowledge might be able to help you a little bit more.
Yes, I am history student too. Very good to have you, James. And slaps him hard on the back.
Yes, indeed.
So who's going to go
Charles,
with Charles?
I'll go with good Charles.
As I.
But I mean, three of us going there, unless Bernard, if you want to go with the professor to the British Museum.
I fancied having a look at the lad's flat, but I'm flexible. In both cases,
if that's what you want to do, Bernard, I will happily go to the museum, and I don't know if anybody needs to come with me. It shouldn't be too dangerous of a place.
it's public, certainly.
Public places, to
Although,
people.
yes, twos and twos make sense. Yes, I'll join you.
All right. So, as in, join me or join Montgomery.
Yeah, yes, join Montgomery. Then no one will be in individual strait. Should
Looks
there
like
be
it's-
some sort of assault.
Looks like it's you and me, Sydney.
You've got it. I'm particularly handy at cracking locks and such if need be.
Hopefully, it doesn't come to that, but
I hope not, but I want to find something there. I think we have the best shot.
Okay. Let's do the British Library first. Now, you guys are residents of London. You guys probably do research on all sorts of things, so you don't need to make any clearances like your 1920s characters did, because you are quite used to going there. You have your card-carrying members. You still have to use help with things, but that's fine. You're well familiar with that. All right. So, do either one of you speak any foreign languages, any Arabic languages?
Arabic, no. I have English and Latin.
No, yeah, quite European.
So you're going to be somewhat limited to translations if you can find them. I would like you to do a library roll.
Never been any good with books, Bernard. 24. I will spend 4 points of luck to pass.
Fine call, I think.
All right. So you're looking around for any kind of reference to fezzes or hats or things like that from previous ages. And eventually, it probably takes you a couple of hours to do it, but you find a reference, a translation of strange folklore from medieval Ottoman Empire. You find this piece.
Let's see here. On the history of the Blood Red Fez, attributed to Koroglu, 1550 AD. A story is told that during the reign of Selim Yavuz, Selim the Strong, a rivalry arose between two royal cousins, Hamza and Mehmet both wished to obtain greater and greater power. The first, Hamza, resorted to bribery and charm to work his way up into the royal court. The second, Mehmet, resorted to black magic and trickery. The extent of the rivalry is well known, and neither fully succeeded in his task. But of the two, the most successful was the dark magician. In those days, marriages were arranged and subject to the Sultan's blessing, so that the bloodlines were maintained. Hamza was a closer relation to the Sultan and therefore carried the royal line. Mehmet was related by marriage only. Mehmet made a plan to obtain a portion of Hamza's blood by hiring a skilled assassin, not to kill him, but to wound him. It is said that Mehmet, using his dark arts and drawing on his knowledge from forbidden texts, and using the blood thus obtained, created a fez of great power. This object was drawn out of the infernal places and gave its wearer control over others who were enslaved to its power. This required blood as a sacrifice. Any blood would do, but the blood of anyone from the line of Hamza or the Sultan would magnify that power 1,000-fold. And so Mehmet began to enslave those around him, and battle lines were drawn, and a great sortie began. But the love of Allah rests on good men, and before the evil man could overthrow the Sultanate and seize power, his head was separated from his body. Mehmet's body was dragged through the streets. What happened to the accursed Fez is not clearly known, but it has resurfaced in stories from time to time.
Well, that certainly sounds like the blasted thing.
Yes.
I wonder if there's some way in which Mehmet's spirit is attached to it and can be reasoned with or compelled in some way.
Wearing it certainly didn't give poor Pook any power. That's for sure. It gave something else power over him. It is interesting. Is there anything that we can look up about those people, those names?
The only name that does come up is Salim. What was it? Salim the First, Yavuz, who is Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. So he comes up. All of the members of households and cousins and all that. There probably are records of them, but they're not in English. They're going to be in Persian and Turkish and things like that. You get the impression also that there are probably quite a few references to the Fez, but they're not in English. This was the one that you found. Dimitri and James, you're back going through the more esoteric stuff. And without realizing it, you also find a few references very similar to what Montgomery found, Montgomery and Bernard. But I would like you also to do a library roll.
That is a hard success.
Oh, nice. So in addition to that information, you also find this. Read it.
On rewards, drinking, bathing in, or simply spilling the blood of a royal while wearing the fez is said by some to bring vast favors of the dark gods. Others claim it to be the key to immortality, but such dark entities may view their principalities differently to our own. A warning. Pay heed to this warning. Wearing this abomination called the Blood Red Fez, will bring calamitous ruin upon the wearer, as one renders up one's soul and one's mind to the unearthly will of the Fez and its terrible masters. Only those most skilled in the ways of the dark arts can hope to survive such a thing, and for them, perhaps the price is even more terrible. It is possible to control the Fez, and even halt its terrible purpose. Seekers after dark knowledge should consult the book, The Whispering Fez.
The Whispering Fez. Let us seek it out and see if it is in this this library collected by the good professor.
It would be intriguing if it was, but I very much doubt. This seems like it would be kept in a text of that value, most likely in a museum or a library somewhere else, maybe in a different country, most likely.
You
It
are
is, in fact, not in this collection.
you are most likely correct.
Yes, it is interesting. We are with this Fez, we are seemingly in my area of expertise and the historical knowledge. It'll be interesting to see what we unearth. It might be interesting.
Very fascinating.
Okay. Keith and Sydney, you drive over to the residence listed. It's a 2-story building, and it looks like it's occupied mostly by students who have rooms there. Go up, and I would like you to do a spot hidden roll.
Ooh. What a waste. No.
Wait a minute. Wait for it. Ooh. Oh, 54 out of 55. Success.
As you're going up the stairs, a lot of times normal everyday occurrences happen and we don't really pay attention to them. In this case, somebody goes down the stairs as you're going up and you just ignore it. But when you get to Matthew Pook's room, the door is open. It's cracked open a little bit.
I'm going to,
and you can tell that it's been jimmied.
But we did make notice of somebody passing us by.
Yeah.
Okay, I take a quick double take down. Is he looking back at us or is he increasing the speed?
No, he's gone. I mean, he's gone down the stairs and out the door rather briskly. I mean, you just thought he was going to classes or something.
Yeah.
Was he carrying anything?
No, not that you saw. But if you go to the window at the end of the hallway and you look out, you get a fairly decent look at the fellow. He's, probably in his mid-20s. He's dressed in a rather light-colored suit, and he hops into his car and drives away while you're watching. It didn't look like a really expensive car, but it wasn't a really cheap car either.
Okay. Didn't look nervous, wasn't like looking over their shoulder or anything like that.
No. No.
All right.
And it might be nothing, but at the same time, it seemed an awful odd coincidence. Oh, 1893 car. I forget what period we're in.
How's that going?
Aaron.
He got on his medium expensive bicycle and rode off quickly.
Gotcha. With the big front wheel. Yeah. So
yes, penny farthing.
Okay. So as I go back to the Matthews room, I'm going to put my hand inside my coat and have my little derringer just near my hand. So but not out because I don't want to look like, but just ready. And then put my hand on the door and push it open and kind of do the quick look around, see if anyone's in the room. Obviously,
there's nobody in there, but it becomes almost. I mean, with just regular eye looking, you can see that somebody has kind of looked around in here. They've opened up some drawers. They've riffled through some things.
Looks like they might have had this address already, despite our hopes there, Sydney.
Yeah, well, it looks like they've looked around a little bit, but maybe not thoroughly. Maybe there's still something to find in here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to his desk if he has a desk first.
Okay.
And obviously do the first quick
Go
scan on the top and then start going through the drawers, starting with the center drawer right above your legs first.
You see, a number of correspondence here. You know that this is Pook's room. And nothing in particular. You can see, evidence that he was in Constantinople and that he was attending university there and that he's attending university here. And he seemed to be working on his career. He had an interest and fascination in, the occult things, but not unhealthy, not any more than you guys did.
Right.
Why don't you guys do a spot hidden as you look around the room?
Come on.
Ooh, 19, that's a hard.
Glad you're with me, Sydney.
Okay.
I can't.
So Sydney is looking around and you're thinking to yourself, where would you hide a private journal? Especially since you know that there are dangerous people out there. And, you try the usual spots. And then you finally think, the headboard looks kind of odd. Maybe there's a space behind it. And in fact, you find a small journal. And you pull it out. And you don't read the entire thing, but you do find this from the last few days.
Ah, Charles, look at this here, right here, behind the headboard.
Oh, good find.
Excerpts from the Journal of Matthew Pook, August 1st, 1893. Lottie has a powerful influence on the gullible. He keeps the Blood Red Fez, described by Professor Demir, in a nondescript hat box of dirty brown. Neither he nor his minions seem willing to touch it. Looks harmless, but Demir knows better and has warned me. August 2nd, 1893. My research at the British Museum Library has called me away from time to time, but my regular checks on Lottie and his minions show things are unchanged. They are staking out a house in 3 Blithering Lane in Rotherhithe. I've asked around and learned a Fez collector lives there. Professor Demir says I should be cautious, but I easily outwitted the clods he is watching the place. They seem obsessed. I'm confident none saw him. August 3rd, 1893. Lottie plans to depart soon on the Orient Express back to Constantinople. I saw him purchase tickets for himself and his followers, though I could not tell when they intended to travel. There seems to be something else Lottie wants before he can leave London. It could not be the Fez, since he came to London with it. Something in the Fez collector's house, I'm sure of it. August 4th, 1893. I have decided to steal the Fez from under Lottie's nose. He follows a very predictable pattern. While he and his cronies are busy in Rotherhithe, I shall break into his room and steal the Blood Red Fez. The fools won't have a clue what happened. With the artifact as my prize, I can speed back to Constantinople and hand it over to Demir. Imagine the look on the professor's face. Disaster averted by his favored student.
And that is the last entry. Because we know that's not what happened.
Right.
That was just a few days ago, the 4th. Today's the 7th, right?
Yeah. But that lines up. Obviously it is of immense power for him to evade so much. But so I know since I've lived in London, that Rotherhithe. Is that London district?
Yeah, it's somewhere nearby.
Okay, all right. Do we want to maybe just pass by that area, Sydney, before we go and meet the others?
I think that's a splendid idea.
Okay, so you guys are
to be careful.
The Rotherhithe address. Montgomery and Bernard in the library. Do another library roll.
I remain quite uncomfortable in these closed spaces. Dusty, I find them.
Well, with 8 more points of luck, we're going to find something else.
Good eye, Camry.
You guys decide to be fairly thorough in your looking through things. And you recall that the professor had said, check the papers, see if there's anything local or anything new going on. And sure enough, just a couple days ago, you find something that was actually kind of big news if you were reading the newspaper at the time. You find this article.
Thought you found that, Turner. In the Times. Brother Fez murder. Well, that sounds... Cowardly killing of elderly antique Fez collector. Criminal gang still at large. Late Thursday night, elderly Fez collector Mr. Joshua DeVore, age 70, number 3 Blithering Lane, Rotherhithe, was murdered during what police say was a burglary of his Rotherhithe residence. Described as eccentric, but essentially harmless, Mr. DeVore was brutally bashed to death with a blunt instrument and his house ransacked. Mr. DeVore was noted for his collection of Fezes from all over the world, as well as Fez-related literature and memorabilia. No Fezes appeared to be stolen from Mr. DeVore's extensive collection of that particular headwear. A glass case containing examples of Fez literature in rare books and manuscripts was overturned and smashed. Police suspect the damage was done in a mad search for money by the perpetrators. Inspector Kendall of Scotland Yard believes it is the work of a local burglar gang terrorizing the vicinity. These rogues are getting bolder. It was only a matter of time before someone was done to death, he says. The inspector assured the Times reporter that the gang would be apprehended and feel the full measure of the law. Rotherhithe residents urged to secure their premises at night and take appropriate precautions toward their persons. Sounds as though they had a literary intention, does it not?
Yes, I fear that our good old servants of His Majesty's government are a little too fixated on the idea of money, as if that was the money and the hats were the only things to take.
Yeah.
But
and I
that
didn't recognize that a hat might be stolen or a hat might be valuable or a hat
those
might...
books.
Yes.
It always keeps coming back to books, Bernard. Today, it seems.
Knowledge is power, they say.
So, although you can anticipate what's about to happen, when Charles and Sydney drive by the place, there are a number of police investigators that are there. Obviously, something had happened there, and you're not precisely sure what. But there's probably no way at the moment that you can get inside. So you head back to the headquarters where Smythe is and where Dimitri and James are. Montgomery and Bernard, you probably likewise, with your information, you all head back. So you're all back at the house. What have we found?
We found that someone was aware of Pook's residence besides us. His room was ransacked before we got there, but they did not find his journal.
Check this out.
Oh, excellent. Did the brigands leave any clues to their identity? Pile of red hats, perhaps?
No such luck.
We saw who we thought it might have been. He passed us going down the stairwell, but unfortunately, when he went by, we didn't know that the room was broken in, so we didn't make any note of it. Just another person using the stairwell.
Yeah.
But Sydney got a good, exactly, and Sydney got a good look. I would say he was wearing a white outfit.
Light colored, like a summer suit. and he rode away in a fairly nice bicycle.
But most interesting, he thinks that this villain was watching a Fez collector that lived at 3 Blithering Lane in Rotherhide. And when we went by, the police were all over there. So it seems like maybe they had gotten there before us again.
Yes, the Fez collector is no longer with the living. Bernard and myself came across an article.
Poor Blighter was bludgeoned to death. They didn't take any hats as far as the authorities could determine, but they did smash his collection of literature about exotic Eastern hats.
Smash it? Do you think maybe they took it? Took some literature?
Yes, the report didn't indicate that they thought anything was stolen, but I think there's not a full accounting of all the books that he owned.
I don't think the poor blighter's wife had an idea what books were contained in the cabinet.
Books on Fezes, you say?
Oh, yes, quite.
Well, we find information on why they would use such a vile hat for drinking of blood and claiming of dark powers. But we also find that there is a warning that it is possible for one to control the hat and not be controlled. I do not believe this, but it says that there may be more information in a book called The Whispering Fez.
Whispering Fez.
Maybe Collector has copy.
Oh, I'm sure he had a copy. I mean, if this book, The Whispering Fez, was the missing link between Laudy using the hat, he had the hat. He just needed to know how to wield it. It seems he's lost one piece of the puzzle, but gained another.
Yeah. Damn things, it does make little sounds, awful little sounds.
It may be worthwhile to maybe, sneak into home and check to see if Whispering Fez is still there.
Yeah. I mean, he said that an Inspector Kendall was leading the investigation, but none of us have contacts with the law enforcement, do we? I know I don't.
Not as such, although, I do have friends in positions of some authority here and there. Although I don't know that the authorities seem to be very confused about the nature of the theft, the murder, and so on.
Which is understandable.
Doesn't hurt to make an effort, I suppose.
Sydney and Charles, both you drove by. It's a single flat where he lived. Actually, a rather old building. There's a lot of old growth trees and things around it. So you think that those people breaking in probably didn't have any trouble at all. Because, you can barely see the back end of the building through the trees and bushes and things. They probably won't have police there 24 hours. There's
no, I mean, he's already dead. Why would they wouldn't need to stake it out? Yeah. I think tonight maybe it might be worth going to look around.
Agreed.
Yeah. We go.
I wonder if there's any documentation of how many copies of this strange book there are in the world. I know, like, other rare books that people know how many copies are left.
There may be a way to find that out, Charles. If we go look at printing catalogs. of people compile records from publishers, things from auctions, and the like.
We don't have an author for the Whispering Fez, do we? Maybe a title.
No, just title. No publication year, no nothing. Title.
Not even a country of origin. I would assume Constantinople in the Ottoman Empire, but that's where.
Unless that English title is its original, then I would assume it was somewhere in the Empire. The British Empire.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We could. Do we think it's safe to send telegraphs to our friend of a friend in Constantinople?
Tamir?
Istanbul?
Yes. Also, when you arrive in Vienna and the Baron joins you, he has quite an extensive knowledge of the occult as well. He might be able to shed some more light on the subject. He's, once again, a champion of the light.
Yes, smythe. It's your opinion, Smythe, that as long as the thing isn't fed blood or worn, that it's more or less inert? I'm concerned that this whispering capacity would allow it to summon ill-intended individuals.
I'm afraid that at the moment it's we have no way of knowing. We're walking into the darkness.
Into the darkness.
While we wait for evening to fall, if it hasn't been done already, Dimitri will head out to a hardware store or general store and find some kind of sturdy, lockable box.
Oh, okay.
That's tool chest size, toolbox size or something, but something that we can lock, preferably with a handle, but not required. That can be nice and sturdy.
I'll give you that. That's if you look around for at least a couple of hours, you're going to find something.
Okay. Get the hat transferred into that and lock it up nice and tight. Brand new lock as well. New lock, new box. Fez inside. Lock it up.
Looking across to as Theodore, Gunther, Edison, professors. Doesn't this Fez seem like it's might be related to the Sadafku simulacron? Might it? I mean, we have a leg, and now we have something sort of on the head. I'm wondering if there's a connection here.
I mean, both powerful artifacts from the same the same region, stemming from a similar religious culture. I mean, there might be a connection, but I don't know if this Fez would be part of the statue. Because I mean the way that they're describing it in this account is that it is a hat, and everything that we have of the Sadafkar simulacrum suggests to me that it's a statue of stone or porcelain. I don't know why you would combine those two, and I don't know if their dates of origins match, because they were discussed of how they discovered the Fez originates in 1550.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Sadafkar simulacra.
Right. Very good point.
I don't know. Do we have an origin date for the Sadafkar simulacra?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even know when Sadafkar lives. So there may be a connection.
I just don't. know what it would be at besides both in the major city of Turkey. What's Turkey now?
Yeah.
Greatest Turkish Empire, yes. Istanbul, formerly Constantinople, as it were.
All right. Now, where were we back in this journal? Let's see.
All right. Yeah. So Charles is thinking maybe with Montgomery talking about the printing catalogs, don't just with it still being daylight and Dimitri out looking for a heavy chest to store it in, maybe just seeing if checking those out, seeing if there is any
research
history of that. Yep.
All right. In this case, give me a library roll. Well, give me whatever you think's better, library or luck.
I think library, even though my luck's higher, but I think the library is more. Oh, pass. Hey, I get a check mark.
Nice. You find a reference. It is listed among rare books. It's not known how many precisely were made, but it was actually the Whispering Fez was written sometime in the early 1800s, and that the Ottoman Empire suppressed it and destroyed most of the copies. Occasionally, it'll come up in a rare book collection, but it's rare, and it's not known the location of any of them at this point.
Okay. There are multiple copies, so okay. So the odds that it could have been at that person's that gentleman's house went up if it's the only copy in the world. I mean, all right, okay.
Well, I mean, you devote your whole life to Fez's, and there's such a rare book. It has some mystique to it since it was burned. Certainly, anyone of so devoted to Fez's would seek such a thing out and add it to their collection. I'd be shocked if he didn't have a copy,
or at least tried to get a copy.
Yes, we must assume that they were at least seeking it, even if they didn't find it. And of course, they were willing to bludgeon him into death just to look, because there is a deeply amoral position behind all of these increasingly horrific actions.
I wonder what information spurred them here, because they bothered to travel all this way. So it may be that they knew from some auction or something that this particular man in London had a copy, and it was the only copy they knew of. So that's why they traveled all the way here from Constantinople.
I mean, you could have insured it, and then it would have been. It could have been many ways they could have figured it out.
And royal blood. Do you think that they were intending to bring the hat here, get the book, and then kill the king?
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. But, that'd be awful for our gracious monarch. Oh.
You can do an idea roll.
95. I have no ideas.
I got an extreme.
All of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got an extreme. So,
well, the information that you found said specifically the Sultan's line.
Yeah, and if it was like Mehmet's or Hasmair's, it'd be 1,000 times stronger. I mean, the Sultans, they had a lot of children, so there could be a lot of people that you could get the blood from.
Both legitimate and illegitimate.
Exactly. Yeah.
And unlike the European kings, they didn't feel it necessary to kill them all to let just the one become the next sultan.
So
All right, so it's going into the evening. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say I'm pretty sure that those devils were after that book.
Yeah, I am too.
There'd be no other reason for them to come all this way and then smash up this man's literature collection.
Smash up this man, for that matter.
That's yeah.
Do you think that therefore it's incumbent upon us to retrieve the book from them before they can use the information therein? Or do we simply want to get the thing back to the Orient as quickly as possible and have it destroyed?
Well, I mean,
prevent them.
The book to them is, even if they have the book, they don't have the Fez. I mean, the Fez is the one that's one of a kind. We have that. And I don't know if they were seen buying tickets on the Orient Express, and they're headed back already.
Yeah, we weren't sure when they were for, but we can guess.
Well, they were purchased to return before their Fez was stolen from them.
Yes, good point.
I think they're planning
Excellent.
to get the book and then return.
Yes, that's a good point.
But why did they bring the Fez all this way?
Also, unlike in the 1920s story, the Orient Express doesn't travel 3 times a day. In the 1890s, you got to book it ahead. You guys weren't able to get anything until Wednesday, and even you are going to be making a connection to it as it's going.
Maybe they brought the Fez to utilize its power in some sort of.
I think they brought the Fez just because they're paranoid and they feel better having it with them.
If I had the Sword of Avalon, I wouldn't leave it behind me somewhere in a lockbox. I'd carry it everywhere and watch it.
Yeah,
That's a fair
some
point.
passion.
Fair point.
but
It's also possible, says Professor Smythe, that they don't know what they're doing.
They certainly seem scared of it based on poor Pook's account.
Oh,
Any tragedies could be stumbled into by people not knowing what they're doing.
yeah, just like poor.
A very true fact.
history is full of such things. Do we think that they used it against Pook intentionally, or that he unwittingly donned the damned thing?
I don't know why they would put it on him, because now they're in this situation, right? I mean, they've lost it.
Yeah, my initial thought was they put it on, but then they lost control of it. I wonder if maybe it whispered to him and convinced him.
We didn't have much chance to explore the room in Whitechapel.
Do you think that they were spending all that time, but they're trying to get it off of him?
Well, Mrs. Grimm said that they'd been in there for 3 days.
Yes, and she'd heard that much crying, and they'd made claims about caring for him. Perhaps
And she said whispering too in the night, all through the building.
Maybe some of us go back to Flophouse and check Pook's place of death.
2 night sorties. This would be a busy evening.
Well, but with three at the Fez dealer's house, the odds of getting attention is much lower than having 6 of us try and sneak in.
Very agreed.
We should all arm ourselves.
I
mean,
agree.
These people are about, and
I have my Derringer in my coat pocket at all times after last night.
Well,
Yes. Each of us should be suitably.
Dimitri goes over to the fireplace and picks up a poker. I use this.
I'm not really familiar with firearms. Well, I suppose I can have it.
Dimitri, you can't readily take that sort of thing on a hansom cab. I mean, you are a large-ish fellow, but even sticking that in your jacket's going to seem, I think, awkward. Maybe
might get the wrong impression if they see you with that around.
Yeah, there are other, smaller. If you're uncomfortable with, powder-based projectiles, we can always get you
I have no gun.
Yeah, well, we can purchase one simply, but also if you'd rather have something like a sap, something you can stick in a pocket rather than have to sort of brandish in the streets as though you were looking for a fireplace and mislaid yourself.
Does anybody have any cricket bats laying about from their school days?
I have a cricket bat.
Excellent.
I have a cricket bat. I think I also have a kosh.
That's more, I think, the sort of thing.
A kosh would be very, very good.
And I've also got a billy club.
James, my God, what are you doing?
Nothing. It's my gun. It's my revolver. Don't worry. I know how to use it.
But you certainly don't shove it up your nose. I don't think that's what that's intended for.
Could go off accidentally.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time to arm yourselves if you guys need to.
Okay.
Don't worry. This one is just a prop, Monty. My real one is safely in my jacket.
Bang.
Yeah.
My balls.
As he blows his toes off.
James, now I'm questioning, why are you carrying around a prop gun? That's a rather silly thing to do.
So why not?
All right.
All right.
So Dimitri, are you wanting to go to the Whitechapel district?
No, the house, the book house. I'll go search for book.
Oh, the book house. Okay, yeah.
So who are the book house boys and who are the Whitechapel boys?
I will go to Whitechapel.
Yes, as will I.
Sydney, you said you were good at lock picking, right?
I'm a good mechanic and good with engineering.
I want to tell you what to do, but I think might be needing your lockpick skills at the book house because I imagine the cops would have locked that up.
I am useful with locks as well.
Oh.
Well, I can give you my card once again, explaining to Mrs. Grimm that we need to look through the room. I'm sure that nobody's cleaned it.
If Dimitri, Sydney, and James want to go look at the books, given James' masterful grasp of history, according to himself, and then myself, I can accompany Bernard and Charles over to the
excellent.
The
not masterful. I just happen to have a very good knowledge on Arabian. Stuff like that.
All right. Let's start with the Whitechapel house. All right. You go back to that same dark alley. It's not so foggy now, but it's creepy and dark. And you pull up in front of Mrs. Grimm's boarding house, and she lets you in. She takes the card and says, anything for Professor Smythe. because he paid for the unpaid bill, which is very nice of him. She lets you in. The room is kind of the way you left it. She's like, I'm going to have to get a professional cleaning crew in here once I can afford it.
Well, I would happily cover the charges for you.
That's very kind of you.
Yes, we can certainly assist you in this process. We just want to make sure that nothing was overlooked about the poor fellow's circumstances. Do you understand?
So she lets you in. I would like you to do, and it's still daylight. There's still some light coming in through the windows, so it's much brighter than it was.
In fact, yes, if we open some of these shades, we could probably see it a million times better than.
Yeah.
And air it out. Oh, smell.
Yeah, and that there's still a little bit of lingering of that smell in here. Okay. All right. Did your spot hidden?
Oh. Can't roll that one.
3. So
nice.
And is an extreme.
So the first thing that you find, Montgomery, is you find some crumpled up pieces of paper. And it looks, when you open them up and look at them, it looks like somebody has hand copied a number of odd sort of glyphs that look familiar because they look like the thing on the hat, the lettering on the hat. There's scribbles, and there looks like there's an attempt to try and translate what it's saying. So you're guessing that one of them, probably Lottie, has some knowledge of the language and he's trying to translate it. However, the only thing he was able to translate were 2 phrases. One that says, rising from the past, and the other one says, dominion over all.
Yeah, well, at least the hat is quite humble in its aspirations. Huh?
Yeah.
The second thing that you find, kind of thrown in the garbage can, there are some ferry ticket stubs, and they are in Turkish. They're Turkish, but you can see that they cover about 9 trips from Constantinople to a nearby island, all in the previous month. So he was going from, I forget the name of the island, Marnamar or somewhere longer on. It's just off the coast of Constantinople. So he's been going back and forth to that island out there. And the other thing that you find is you find a small notepad. There's nothing written on it, but you can see there is an impression.
The old sideways lead test.
What you see is an address in Shoreditch. It doesn't give the address, but it says the Shoreditch address. So there's an address for someplace in Shoreditch.
I think the only place less pleasant than Whitechapel is Shoreditch.
You think this is where they were staying?
It'd be dashed useful if it were. Although the scoundrels, we know what train they're booked on. Is it the same as ours? Or they get ahead of us?
We don't know what train they were booked on. We just know that they were purchasing tickets on the 4th of August, but for what departure date we didn't get.
I imagine. I mean, how often does the Orient Express leave? We may be on the same train as them.
A couple times a week. It might be that you catch up to that train. That's what you're intending. You don't know.
At the very least, we can see what they left behind on their own establishment. They left plenty behind here. They're slovenly bastards.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they might have. I mean,
It's Miss Griff, right? Is the
Grimm.
lady Grimm?
Grim.
Miss Grimm. I'm going to go ask her a question real quick. See if
Okay.
they go down and go, Miss Grimm. When was this room let and by who?
It was let on Friday, August 4th, by a Mr. Leeds. At least that's what he called himself.
Yes. Okay.
He was a bit outlandish, if you ask me. He was overdressed, like he was going to the opera with a big top hat and tails, and seemed to be rather flamboyant. White mustache. I'm guessing bald head because I didn't see any hair.
Right. He forgive me. He didn't bring any ladies up that were walked the street. Okay.
No, but he had two gentlemen with him, and he had three gentlemen with him. One of them seemed to be unconscious or drunk or something like that, and he brought them in, and he told me later that it was his brother who was trying to overcome an addiction, to explain all of the yelling and screaming. But now that we look back on it, we think that it was something much worse.
Thank you.
Did he ever let on how he came to know that there was an open room in your establishment?
Oh, I have no idea. I imagine he just went door to door to find some place, or maybe I have no idea. I've never seen him before. He certainly didn't look like the kind of person who would visit this area very often.
Aside to Charles and Bernard, why in the devil did they bring him here?
Yeah, I mean,
if they had a place they were staying already.
Yeah, in a worse part of town. Maybe people knew them in Shortage, and the screaming. It's Mr. Leeds. I mean, most likely an alias.
Yes, we've heard of Leeds before. I think it's Lottie.
That's what I was thinking too. It's easier to remember your alias if it begins with the same initial.
Something.
Do you speak from experience, Charles?
Oh, I wasn't always a respectable businessman.
Or should I say Cornelius?
Or Montgomery for my last name, but no.
As to the remnants of the apartment, of the flat that was let, there's probably something of a mess on the floor next to where the doctor was assaulted and so on.
Yeah.
Probably the washroom's down the hall, so it's perhaps been cleaned. Is there any other material in that little flat that suggests who and what passed through? There's no discarded reading material. There's no newspapers. Are there boot prints or a discarded or forgotten hat or glove? People fled in a hurry, I assume.
Yeah, it does seem like they left in a hurry, but it also looks like they probably didn't unpack, so to speak. I mean, they obviously threw some things away and made some notes.
Yeah, I think, Charles, the answer to your question is that they wandered a discardable room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they brought him to this random hole.
And they would have been successful if Pook hadn't called out Professor Smythe's name.
Yes. What was left of the poor fellow?
Mm.
Well, off to Shoreditch then?
One thing that we've not considered. Was Professor Smythe in danger, do you think, at his residence?
Oh, I think we're all in.
Well, I understand our investigation could get us noticed, but this young man said Professor Smythe, perhaps in the presence of these thugs.
Possibly. But
Well, Smythe is aware.
he is, yes. He knows how to take care of himself also. But it wouldn't hurt to maybe point this out to him.
I mean, this poor Pook fellow suffered a great deal, as best we can apprehend, before he was transformed into whatever that thing was.
Ugh.
I don't assume that that Smythe is unconscious of the danger that implies.
No.
Gentlemen, I think there was an answer to a puzzle of ours right before our very eyes. When they brought the poor fellow here, Mrs. Grimm gave an account of their descriptions, and none of them were wearing a fez.
Yeah, he was wearing a top hat. So I must confess, Montgomery, I'm missing the piece of the puzzle. It's not fitting for me.
The young man was not wearing the fez when he was brought here.
Oh,
he was.
Yeah,
they put it on him.
Here.
Or it was put on him here.
Ah, yes. So that does make sense, and that answers the question of how it got on there.
Well, yeah, that brings us back to the confusion that I had earlier. Why would they give an object of power to someone they wished to destroy or control?
Well,
Testing it.
They said they're scared. They were scared of it, right? And now they had a test subject, so to speak.
When he stole it from them, well, that's another question. How he did that?
Well, maybe he didn't. They said they brought him. He seemed quite drunk. And Charles, you said just touching it made you awfully sick, didn't it?
It did, yes.
So perhaps poor Pook, when he sees the fez, got himself sick. Maybe he wanted to leave the bag, so they thought they still had it. But he picked the thing up itself, and
yes, he got sick. It was easy for them to overpower him then. Couldn't get away.
Yes, perhaps they shoved it into his jacket or something, and it had that deleterious effect upon his psyche while they bore him hither. And then to torture him, but they put the hat on. They let and then they were safely away before the hat caused him to become dangerous. Well, they need the book. They didn't know.
Oh my God!
All right.
They had the book.
They'd stolen it already.
Yes, because they were casing the place where they were going to steal it. So they had the fez, and they had the book, and they had Pook.
And the
They'd
book
already
told
killed
them
the
to
old fez collector, had his book, returned to find poor Pook, disabled or tended by the Fez or whatnot. And
Well, now we have a pretty good idea of how he ended up in this situation.
But do you think they tortured him before they put the fez upon his head? Or did the fez itself torture him? Or
I thought the fez would have been what was torturing him. I mean, it was, imagine the pain of something essentially stitching itself to your head, becoming one with your flesh up there. Ugh.
I don't relish it myself, but it's intended to grant one considerable power. They weren't afraid that Pook would be able to combat them. Of course, also you're supposed to feed the fez blood of royals. You could hardly attain such material in a place like this. Perhaps I'm too materially minded to understand these things.
I mean, unless one of them already had that blood. I mean, if they were a descendant themselves. The people after the Fez in the book, I mean.
Right.
And yet they left us the Blood Red Fez.
Not by choice, though. Remember, they were watching the place. At least we saw some people watching the place wearing fezes when we showed last night.
Perhaps it is a lack of understanding. Maybe they never intended to leave the Fez, but the Fez refused to go with them, if that makes any sense.
It seems if it will of its own. Perhaps if we can get a hold of the book itself, it'll make more sense.
Yes.
Okay, so Sydney and Dimitri and James. Oh, you guys are sneaking over to the house. Okay. So you come up to the house. You can see that there is evidence that the police were there. There's I don't know what they did back in the 1890s. There's a no trespassing sign. But like I said, the property is pretty shrouded because of bushes and things like that. And it would be fairly easy to get around to the back. There are no lights on. So maybe he wasn't currently married, or maybe his wife, maybe he was a widower, because there's nobody home. And the neighborhood's fairly quiet.
Let's sneak in and enter through back door.
Very good idea.
Yes, good indeed. We don't want to draw any attention to us. Make any unwanted noise.
And I'm wearing my stealth black suit here.
Okay, yeah. All right, so I would like you to do a stealth roll, but do it with a bonus.
Oh, good. It's a bonus. And now I did just roll a 100, so I don't know if that supersedes anything.
No.
I have a standard success.
Rolled originally an 85, and now I rolled a 75. Yeah.
So is that a fail?
I fail. Massive fail. I barely have any. I don't even have anything other than the base.
Okay.
Still, so.
And Sydney, how did you do?
I just failed.
Do you want to do a luck?
You're close. Why don't you spend some luck?
It's 10 points. And one of us failed already.
Yeah.
No, we'll if you don't want to, then Dimitri, just like a snake, navigates through the bushes and around to the back. Sydney, you're second, and James is coming up behind you when James trips and falls forward and sort of crashes to the ground and gives you a shove, which reveals you. I don't think there's anybody near enough to notice. So
I'm quietly swearing to myself in Russian.
Yeah, obviously, the guy who said we would keep the noise down has to make the most noise.
So you come up to the back door. You have enough light where you can see the door well enough, but I mean, it's not like you can't really see details, but you could certainly pick the lock if you want to try.
I would give it a shot. Not that good.
If I assisted, could it help any bit? Because I'm kind of.
Why don't you go ahead and roll as well? Yeah.
Okay. And okay, I can make a success if I spend 2 points of luck.
Okay. So with your assistance, yeah, you managed to pop that. So the lock, you hear it click, and the door opens.
Large grin to Sydney.
Mr. Under normal circumstances, Mr. What's his name? Mr. DeVore's house is actually a very nice one. You're coming in from the back through the kitchen, but once you're out of the kitchen, you can see that the room has been ransacked. He had displays all over the place with hats, and there are still quite a few hats in displays, but there's a bunch of them strewn around the room. They've been stomped on or not violently so, but just ignored. Nobody took any care for the things. Some of them are very old. Some of them are very ratty. Oh, by the way, what are you doing to be able to see? It's dark.
So assuming that we're going through the kitchen, and based on the time period, I would assume that there would be a collection of candlesticks and maybe, a candle holder and matches. So I want to try and fish something out, and I'm gonna, if need be, I'm gonna break a candlestick to make it really short and get it into the candle holder. So it's a really small thing, so that with just my hand, I can easily obstruct and diminish some of the light, so that the bobbies walking outside don't see yellow bulbs of light.
Okay.
I'll turn my lantern down a little bit. I got this really small lantern. It's like a
little hooded lantern. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very small, as you can see for the day.
All right.
State of the art.
So you're looking around, and you do see the smashed glass cases. You also notice, a desk and the regular furniture that you would expect to see in a very nice, like early Victorian. Is it Victorian period? I think so.
Sydney, check the smashed case for a book. I will rifle through desk. James, is there a bookshelf or anything in here?
No, there are just glass cases.
Okay.
I will just look wherever the other two aren't looking and keep an eye out as well.
Okay. You do notice that there are a number of like police tags, just like that they've put in place and probably photographed. I don't know what police practices were like back then, but I'm just making it up. Of course, how do you know if a book's missing? You don't know whether it was there or not to begin with. But that does seem to be a focus. The bookcases are broken open.
So we'll spread her out in this room. I want to do the desk.
Yeah.
And then we'll start checking around to see if there's anything.
Okay. Yeah. The desk. You get over to the desk and you find what looks kind of like a ledger. And you realize the man was a collector. So he has records of everything in his collection, every Fez, every purchase, where he purchased it, and so forth. Go ahead and do an accounting roll.
Ooh, accounting.
Joy. But with ledger, maybe Professor Smythe might want, and so pocket ledger to take with.
Okay. Well, it's not a pocket ledger.
Stick under arm and hold out with armpit.
I'm pretty. This. Do I see this? Can I catch an eye from across?
I mean, yeah, you guys are talking to each other, I'm sure.
Okay. So I would like to spend. Let's see. That is 1, 2, 3 points. Luck and succeed. Better slow down on the luck though after this.
All right. So it takes you a little bit because his writing is fairly fine and he's got a lot of details in there about the items that he purchased. You eventually do find a listing for the Whispering Fez. It says specifically is the Whispering Fez possibly, and it says next to it, possibly one of the originals, written in what looks like Persian and some other language, and that he paid £25 for it.
Dear Lord, it's a hefty sum.
Dimitri, do another spot hidden. You're going through stuff. I don't think you need to do a spot hidden. I don't have a handout for this, but what you do find after you look through his mail and stuff is you find a letter from a Mr. Leeds in Para, Constantinople, and he is offering Mr. DeVore £100 sterling for the book, The Whispering Fez. But from what you can tell, the answer is the letter is unanswered. Actually, he had also mentions that he understands that it has recently come into Mr. DeVore's possession, but there is no address, no return address or anything like that. And the date on the letter is about 2 weeks ago. So Leeds / Lottie was looking for it.
It still could be here then. They may not have found it. It sounds like he had it. We need to look more closely here. We might not have found it.
I would suspect, possibly, if this collector was very paranoid, if he had good Russian stock, he would be quite paranoid. Pook may be well hidden, may not be in case for common thief to find.
Wall safe, I'm thinking. Maybe if he had.
Search much more thoroughly.
If it's something so important, for sure, in a more secure location than just in a display box.
Go ahead and do a spot hidden for me.
Alrighty. Boom. There's what level of success?
No.
Okay.
Standard success. I could make it hard. You know what? I am going to make it. I'm going to spend 4 luck and make it a hard success.
No,
hard success.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You spend a considerable amount of time. You think of all the nifty tricks and things of what you might, where it might be hidden. You don't find any evidence of any hidden anything. In fact, he may not have understood the importance of the book, but everything in his collection's on display. He probably loved walking around sipping tea and staring at all of the things that he had collected. So it most likely was probably in that case there. You're just guessing that there's obviously something was on display in that case that's just now smashed glass.
Yeah.
And it's also probably what Pook said they hadn't just jumped on the train and left, so they were looking for something. They probably found it.
Yeah. Damn.
As famous Tsar says, double dog damn.
Yeah. Triple dog damn. There, Dimitri.
I feel we may be at a bit of a dead end here, my fellows.
He says as he looks down at the big blood splot all over the floor where the man was murdered. It's a dead end.
You know,
All
I've got
right.
to be topical, you see.
So without being seen or noticed, you guys managed to slip back out again. You're sure that you've thoroughly looked through the place, and that you've pretty much surmised what was going on. All right. So the other three, you guys had mentioned that you. Well, do you still want to do that? Were you going to go by this other address?
I vote for it. Yes.
We could at least have my driver go by. Just go
Mhm.
look at the carriage and see.
Yeah, before we leave town, we should follow up whatever bits and dits there are.
So you drive there, and actually says here in my book, Victorian Shoreditch is known for its squalor.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty bad area. It's also mid-evening
Mm-hmm.
when you get there. The address is on a second floor. It's a second floor apartment. If you're guessing which apartment it is up there, you're guessing the lights are off. So whoever it is isn't here at the moment.
Well, at dusk. I mean, we can get a sense of the building and see if there's a post box that tells us about tenancy and so on.
All right. Yeah, you go through the front and you look at the post boxes, and for 2A, say that's the apartment that you had listed. It's a Mr. Bentley Burnham.
Burnham.
Mm-hmm.
Likely story.
Mm. Well, I mean, we're here. Do we want to knock on the door, see if they're there? If they answer, oh, sorry, I thought this was Miss Havisham's apartment.
You go upstairs. You find the door. The place is shabby. The place doesn't look well built or well constructed. You knock on the door. There is no answer. You don't see any light either.
Yeah, I turned the knob.
Well, it's locked.
Oh, if only there was something for me to use my accounting knowledge on. I'm so useless with lockpick.
I imagine you can count on how inexpensive the lock on a door like this is.
Yeah, I mean,
If I were to say cough and bend this way, I'd probably just knock the door right open.
yeah, I mean, if you accidentally hit your shoulder against it hard.
Do a strength roll.
I did not do it. My strength of 35.
It's a regular success.
Okay. Yeah, without much trouble, it pops right open.
Mm.
The room it's just a single room. The bathroom is down the hallway. It's a communal bathroom. It's fairly neat. You can see that there is another suit hanging in the closet. there is a suitcase that it looks like whoever it was might have been in the process of packing. These are men's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
There's some bits of correspondence on the desk to a Mr. Bentley Burnham.
Consistent name at least. Well, let's look at those first. How dusty is it?
Not particularly dusty.
All right.
And the bed, although the bed's not made at the moment, the bed does look slept in.
Okay. So what are you looking at, Bernard?
Correspondence.
You're looking at the correspondence. I'm going to go through the suitcase, and what I'm specifically looking for is tickets for the Orient Express.
Oh.
Okay. You're looking. Well, let's start with you're looking at the correspondence. There's not much. Mostly bills, things that he needs to pay. There is, however, a something that looks like a receipt.
Mm.
And it's a generic. It's for services rendered. And there's an initial, but the initial is HL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Leeds, Lottie. How much?
£100.
Good heavens.
Oof.
Not for this flat. Quite. All right. But the service is unspecified.
Yeah.
The service may have been bashing in a poor old Fez collector.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe this is a thug that they hired.
I would think that if I had a little bit of a self-motivated pseudo-religious organization, I'd include the thuggery within, but perhaps plausible deniability could be relevant. We should certainly make sure there's nothing of interesting material here to be read before we leave.
As I'm looking at the suitcase, I have a decent anthropology. I don't know if this will come into play. Is the clothes more of a 1890s English or more of a 1890s Turkey? What is that? What Western Asia?
It's definitely English. You would guess the clothes if you went by style and so forth. It's definitely the clothes of a younger man. Do a spot hidden as you're looking through the suitcase.
Yes. 22. Pass.
There's a buttoned compartment against the interior roof of the suitcase. Mm-hmm. You pop that open, and there seem to be a number of papers inside in a folder, and written on the front of the folder is is for Hieronymus Lati. And when you open the folder, your blood runs cold, because what's inside the folder is a bunch of information about the six of you, or rather the seven of you, because Smythe's mentioned in there as well.
I pocket the folder. Is it able to be folded and fit into Trenchcoat's pocket?
Like in a manila envelope.
Yeah, I kind of fold it because I don't want him to hand this over. Or it has been handed over.
The service is rendered.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mentioned it. Mentioned it to
Everybody do a
Bernard.
listen roll.
Oh man.
99.
Fail. 70.
24. I will have to spend a few points, but I will happily do so. Because as soon as I hear that noise he makes, I feel a bit on guard.
Bernard, you just happen to be standing closest to the window when you hear the distinct sound of a bicycle bell. And you glance out the window and you see a young man coming down the street in a light-colored suit, heading for the building.
Yes, we have our cream-colored bicyclist is approaching.
Oh, well, then we should
Close the door and arrange ourselves appropriately for a proper welcome.
Oh, I was thinking leave.
Or backstairs.
The back stairs was what I was.
Yes,
I
I
was
did not come
thinking
here for a fight.
should have brought Dimitri.
Well, if you'd, I wouldn't mind smacking the loud about a bit, but we don't know how many of his friends he has with him. It's
Yes.
true.
I'm a bit.
So backstairs?
Yeah.
If you prefer discretion, I'll follow.
Yeah, I start moving.
All right. I think that you can time it well enough where you go down the stairs and out the back door before he actually comes into the front. Do you want to just skedaddle?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Shouldn't we see if he can summon some of his rosy-headed peers?
I could be convinced to stay.
He
but
seems
yeah,
to be all alone.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, is there even a telephone in the building, along with the washroom down the hall, or is
Probably not.
it some?
There's
Yeah.
probably not a telephone.
He'd have to leave even to get accomplices. I think we should find a convenient shadowy place and see where the little fellow runs off to.
Yes, tail him. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't go anywhere. He comes inside, he checks his mail, and then he and his bike go up the stairs to his room.
Mhm.
I would expect that he'd notice that the dossier was missing within the first 20 minutes, but perhaps I'm assuming a greater importance than we actually hold for him.
Did you want to wait and see if anything happens? Or
It was my inclination to post a little watch on him from the shadows.
well, it seems like nothing happens. You're there for 20 minutes and there doesn't
That
seem
gets
to be
tedious.
Mhm. Did we get the impression that he lived alone?
Yes.
Okay.
A single squalid room in a low rent flat in Shoreditch. And no sign of the money that he'd gotten for keeping an eye on us. The notes that, I assume that you're sharing with us at some point this dossier.
Yes.
Is this information written in an educated hand?
Well, you guys are sort of hiding in the dark. So
Well, that's
have to
I guess
take it
it's
back
off to the Oriental Club, and we'll look over this material once we get bored.
Mhm.
okay. Well, nothing happens. So he may
Okay.
have not even noticed that it's
Yeah.
missing. You eventually get back to the Oriental Club. Well, actually, you were probably at Professor Smythe's place.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you all rendezvous back at Professor Smythe's. So what do you want to? You show the dossier,
Of course. Yeah.
and it looks like he may have been tracking your movements just for the last couple of days. But he was definitely hired by Lottie.
Hmm.
specifically to find out what the hell you guys are up to.
Now, when you say last couple of days, are you saying starting the day that Smythe contacted us?
Starting the day that they probably saw you go
Yeah.
into the building.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And with that revelation, maybe we will stop there and pick this up again next week. We're at an hour and 52 minutes. So Josh wanted to start a little early so we can accommodate him. Our players included Morgan Llewellyn, David Gasaway, Stuart Lively, Keith Craig, Josh Harwood, and John Hook, with yours truly as the keeper of the secrets. We have a Discord server where you can chat with our other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastery. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to help support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Riley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.